and this is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I'm Saad in Southeast London in Bromley, and hopefully Gregory, you're there with us again?
Hello.
Welcome, Gregory. Please do tell us again where you are and how is the weather where you are.
It's very windy in Brussels, but it's bright and cold.
And cold, okay. So the same here, blustery they're calling it, bright, cold, and some clouds, but it's in fact it feels good in one way, but obviously the blustery winds are not probably so, how can I say, we appreciate them so much, but basically it is bright and sunny, and as you say, a little bit cold as well. So welcome listeners to the Spiritual Discussion Program. Thank you for joining us. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abrushin. And we have a topic every week. The topic for tonight is Spiritualize the work of our hands. Spiritualize the work of our hands. And some of you may have spotted that this topic has come up before, and I did realize that after we chose the topic that yes, 2 years ago we did this topic before, but we hope to look at it from another light today. Things are happening in the world, and we just tune in, and sometimes things happen again, and we just want to talk about them. So just to remind you, the topic again for tonight is Spiritualize the work of our hands. And you can join in the discussion with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 07939 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of the UK, it is 0044 7939 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. I'm going to begin with what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Abrushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses. No any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Abrushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and see that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace, if he earnestly seeks for the truth. Dear listeners, I just want to remind you the topic we're discussing tonight is Spiritualize the work of our hands. Spiritualize the work of our hands. And you can join us in the discussion with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. Gregory, looking at our title for the topic tonight is Spiritualize the Work of Our Hands. And when I announced that topic, one person reacted to say, what do you mean, spiritualize the work of your hands? It doesn't make sense. And so I thought, oh, that's really interesting that, you know, somebody might say that. And so in a way, I think I want to begin with that immediately, really. What does it mean, spiritualize the work of our hands? But I think it might just, before you respond, Gregory, I just thought the word spiritualize might, some people may not have come across it and might find it a bit strange. So maybe that's the one to start with. What do we mean when we use the word spiritualize in this context of spiritualize the work of our hands?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. There was a bit of background sound, but hopefully...
Okay, that's
Okay, but we can carry on.
The expression to spiritualize the works of your hand can be reformulated, or the equivalent could be to spiritualize one's activities here on earth, or as long as you are not in the equivalent environment, which is the spiritual kingdom, that expression then holds to spiritualize your striving or your activities. As many may realize, the world in which we live, the earthly, or basically the world of matter, is temporal. It doesn't exist here forever. That which is spiritual is not temporal. It's more permanent, more realistic, more beautiful, and is durable for a long time or forever. So when that expression to spiritualize the work of your hands is used, it only means to ensure that your activities are such that they are upbuilding and they are durable. Many a person understand when they go out, say, they buy a phone, and that phone or that phone set breaks down almost every 2 or 3 days. It means it is no good, or it means it doesn't last long. Many people want things which are beautiful and will last for a very long time, or to be durable for a long time. It's not when you're using the phone, it breaks down, and then you go start again. So that which lasts long, which is durable, is that which is spiritual, and that which is even more beautiful. So that expression only means that you should strive to ensure that your activities are beautiful and are durable.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. What you've done there is to paint a picture that, you know, like there always has to be a goal when we do an activity, and you're talking the activity we have been talking about, or you're referring to, is earthly activity. So just to recap that, what you said in this answer, this is when we say spiritualize the work of our hands, we mean the spiritualizing the activity, earthly activity that we are doing here on this earth. And you referred to the activity being durable and, let's say, beautiful. So so that's like I was going to use the word goal, but maybe not quite the word goal is there. Maybe it's a context that whatever we do on the earth, there should be a focus that this activity is durable and is beautiful. That's how we, let's say, look forward to something. Like you said, the mobile phone, I used to refer to just as a phone. If it breaks down every 2-3 days, that's really not something anybody wants, and that can't be considered beautiful or durable. So every activity has to have that context of durability and beauty, you could say. And I know that's just two things we've talked. You've said. I think there's more to it than just that. But that's you could say the simple foundation. I'm going to pick you up on one thing, Gregory. You mentioned about beauty, and they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and almost, if I understand that phrase correctly, it sounds like each person has a different impression of beauty, almost as if one person would call the same thing ugly, but another person would call it beautiful. So, Gregory, how do we define this beauty? Is it the same for every person?
Beauty itself cannot be the same for every person. Very simply, that people, as a child, what you consider beautiful is not in the same measure as that which you consider beautiful when you become an adult, or when you get to your middle age, or when you get to your old age. It is not that the mountain which one has been viewing all this while, or the clouds which one has been viewing all this while, is the same clouds, is the same mountain, or even nature that one had been observing all this while. It is not that the processes as such have varied greatly, the processes are basically the same, but the experiencing of these processes is entirely dependent on the inner maturity of the person. So, as the person grows from one state of awareness to another state of awareness, which state of awareness could be natural, and which state of awareness could also be in accordance with the laws of creation through which this particular personality came into existence. This occurs most of the time when one had to go through some inner tough experiences. In that particular transition, you do find that that particular personality opens up one way or the other through great joy or very deep sorrow. In that process, the physical or the intellect, which is the tool that man used to gather experiences here on earth, does not distort anything. And therefore, man's inner instrument or man's inner core, which is of the spirit, is able to experience these emotions undistorted, and therefore is able to absorb, use it for maturity, and use it for many other things. So this is what happens. So it is not the object as such which gives the beauty or does not give the beauty. It is the personality that in its own radiations or in its own absorptions is able to some extent to appreciate what lies, what forms that particular object. And therefore, when that expression is used, it's a measure of their own inner appreciation.
Again, thank you for that answer, Gregory. What I'm seeing already is that this appreciation of beauty, there's you could say a physical beauty, and then there's the inner beauty. And you could say that the physical beauty, which maybe many people might be attracted to, you could call it even superficial, is not really the one that we should be, how can I say, be drawn to, or maybe that's not the quite right word. Let's say that should not be the real beauty that we should appreciate. Is the inner beauty, the deeper beauty, you could say, or even maybe spiritual beauty, rather than the superficial physical beauty. Would I be right in that, Gregory, in that assessment?
That would not be right at all, because what one is referring to here is the object. The object that one sees. Take, for instance, a mountain or the clouds, whatever it is. If one calls it nature, leave man aside, man being the observer. All that nature has brought forth basically is simple, balanced. That is where elements of beauty come in. And what one then experiences are the outermost manifestations of some inner process That is where many start from. It strikes their gaze. Many a time you find such an interaction awakens something in the inner man. In that process, it becomes more conscious than it had been in the past. So beauty is more of a holistic, not merely of the form, the structure. As much has to be put into it. There are many who listen to a piece of music from whatever part of the earth, and in listening to it, they're able to pick grains of elegance, grains of beauty, where balance between the notes are brought into circumspection. So when all these things are considered, you find that this strikes the spirit and makes it to be aware. The more aware, that means one is becoming more conscious. The level of consciousness between one person and another varies because they are different people and they experience differently. Therefore, what counts is how that particular person has attuned himself or herself to opening up to what they have observed, opening up inwardly, taking it inwardly. Only when it touches the spirit very deeply are they able to comment on it. For don't forget, what many a person may say today is not beautiful because of his state of mind. A few moments later, or maybe a few months or years later, that particular person who has matured a bit more now looks back and so that was wonderful, that was beautiful. So beauty indeed is in the eye of the beholder. It is the beholder who measures, but again, it gives you a holistic picture of the level of maturity or the level of awareness of that beholder.
Thank you for that explanation, Gregory, and sort of broadening the picture in your answer. Rather than with my question, I was looking at only, let's say, one aspect of, you could say, the physical beauty and as a how can I say, the aesthetics, and there's more than that. As you said, there's a process which you can also appreciate. So there's many. It's wide-ranging, this appreciation of beauty. So going back to the topic again, the title tonight is Spiritualise, the Work of Our Hands, and which we are referring to as earthly activity. And we're talking about our hands, Gregory, so it's our activity, each person, and almost it sounds like an individual activity, or it could be a joint activity amongst a group of human beings. So there's one thing I noted, Gregory, you mentioned about nature, and you could say the beauty brought by nature, and then it seems to be also something separate, beauty brought by humanity. What I want to ask, Gregory, is the nature, with nature, it sounded to me that the beauty is always automatically there, with the human being, it's not automatically there. So what's happened? What's the difference? In the end, nature formed us human beings as well, or everything came through nature. So what is the difference? How come let's say, what nature forms is always, you could say, beautiful, and I mean that the word beautiful in all its context, whilst a human being, it's not always beautiful. What's the difference with with humanity compared to, let's say, from nature, the work of nature?
Basically, one should observe very closely that nature undistorted by man's activities remains simple, and therefore there is balance. Nature, as affected by man's interference in its processes, then there is a shift. The shift is brought in by man himself, who cannot survey the overall, or does not have the overall picture. And because he himself or herself has a free will, and they just do as they wish, without considering what nature itself demands of the human personality. So nature has always remained beautiful. However, when man interferes with nature, as can be seen in the so-called climate change and all that type of thing, then it is something else. Because in the first instance, man has free will. True, man came through nature. The body, the physical body, which man uses, came through nature. But man itself, or the human spirit, so-called, has a free will to decide how he or she wishes to go. And therein lies a difference. Look at the outside. The birds are always beautiful. Flowers are always beautiful. The animals, they don't wear clothes like we do, yet they are always beautiful, even in their infancy. The trees are always there, always stands. The hills and the dales. The moon is there. The sun has always been there, as far as we know. And yet, not once have we ever used the word, oh, the sun is ugly, or the moon is ugly. Therefore, that which is ugly must have come into being or into existence due to the interference or the wrongful interference by man himself.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Now I'm just trying to work out, as you said, there's a difference. Although we came through nature, there is something man has, which is free will. And let's say when it's misapplied, it leads to, you could say, loss of beauty and loss of balance, which leads to this, you could say, the ugly creations, if I can use that word, or our work turning into, let's say, something ugly when compared to nature. So my question then becomes, Gregory, what is the role for man then, which is different from nature? Because it looks like there's something man is supposed to do, if he's given a free will. I mean, what I'm seeing, Gregory, is like a creative thing. Man can just choose to make something one way. He can choose to make it another way, and like you do in art, uh, different artists will, send something, and they will, whatever they're inspired by, that's what they will produce, and it will be different. No two people will have the same ideas. So my question on this, Gregory, is yes, is there something special about man's purpose, you could say, that is different from nature's purpose? Yeah, what is meant to be the purpose for man or humanity?
In the first case, man is supposed to learn from nature the simple forms and balances that nature produces. First, you learn from it. You first learn that which is available to you physically before you start making changes to that which has been presented to you. You do not take that which exists and start turning it upside down before you understand the purpose of its existence. And that therein lies the big difference. It must be stressed that the human personality, the core of which is of spirit, started in an unconscious state. Unconscious, another term one may use there is unaware. In the process of becoming conscious or becoming aware, of course, there are stages where errors could be made. And if errors are made, they should be corrected. For such errors will not permit the person who made these errors to proceed further. It means it will keep running around in circles. Therefore, it is necessary to give a buffer. Such learning process could not be done at the origin, which is basically the spiritual realm, to ensure that things are not too fast for many to experience and learn. The opportunity was then provided far away in the world of matter, where processes are slower. And finally here in the physical world, gross matter, for instance, the earth. In that particular case, you'll find that one can make an error, come back in a different earth life, and make corrections such that it will continue to learn new things. At the same time, each personality that has come to learn must also know that others, like he himself or herself, have also come here to learn. And therefore, they should not do anything to distract or disturb them. Those whom, like him, are also learning. This is fair play. But that was not the case. Many who had the opportunities turned themselves into something else and bound themselves by preventing others who are, in quotes, in the same school here on earth to learn. By becoming aware or by becoming conscious of those processes which are available in nature and learning to use these processes for their benefit, they then matured. But it doesn't stop there. For the consciousness or the awareness needed to expand, they needed to also ensure that there was this self-awareness. That means they themselves had, or they are imbued with talents. Which talents they need to put into use in these processes, in their experiencing, such that when they are matured in accordance with the laws through which they themselves came into creation or came into existence, they will then be of help to others who, in due course, will have to go through similar processes. For they'll be able to advise, even from the distance from whence they had come initially. That is a cursory picture that many a personality should use.
Thank you so much for that answer, Gregory. You covered a lot there. I will explore it further in a moment. I just want to remind listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. And if you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com, grailmessage.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is Spiritualize the work of our hands. Spiritualize the work of our hands. Another way to put that is spiritualize the work of our earthly activities. And you can join in the discussion with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 07939 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. And just to say, we're broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number 1, Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. Also, we're broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, and then space live stream. That's one word, live stream. So Bless Radio 1 with the number 1 and then space live stream. And you can listen to the recording of the show the next day on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and then type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space Grail Message, and then space the topic of the show, which tonight is Spiritualize the work of our hands. Gregory, there's a lot you said in the last answer about, let's say, man's activity in terms of not only activities, let's say journey, I think is the better word, in journey, man's journey or human beings' journey of, let's call it development, from starting as an unconscious spirit germ. We didn't mention that word germ, but as an unconscious spirit being, let's call it that way, spiritual seed is maybe a better word. And then traveling from, we haven't gone into this in this so far, but basically, let's say starting as an unconscious spirit seed, and then with the aim of learning and becoming more conscious and becoming more aware through experiencing. Maybe that's the simplest way to put it. And that journey has taken the spirit seed from the spiritual realm, let's say heaven, down to this earth, the material world. And that's the simplest way I think I want to put it. And that is a learning journey, and to become conscious, in fact, to not only become conscious, but to become self-conscious. So this is the process, you could say, that man has to go through. And Gregory, we are on this now, on this earth, which I will say most of us are unaware of this journey, where we started. We do have questions in our life. Who am I? What is my purpose? But I would say most of us really don't know, where do I come from? What is my purpose? And let's say here we grow, as we know, from a child to an adult, and then going to school and having a career and work, and getting involved in social activity and other things on this earth. And we've mentioned about, there's a spiritual activity, and then there's this world, the material world that we live in this world. And what I noticed, Gregory, it seems the material activity seems to become the priority in life, definitely in our earthly life. And so my question there, Gregory, I want to say, the topic we are saying is spiritualize the work of our hands, or spiritualize our earthly work is another way to put it. But when we are here on this earth, Gregory, it seems we are focused on the earthly, let's say materialistic activities much more. I was going to talk about money and other things, but maybe I'll bring that up in a moment. So how can how has that happened, Gregory? If we are, let's say, if nature brought us to this point on this earth, through the activity of nature we have been formed, and we've come here, how is it that somehow, and you've said the goal is to become more conscious and to become aware. How come we seem to be, you could say, I was going to use the word lost or stuck on this earth with more, let's say, materialistic activity rather than focusing on the spiritual side of our activity?
That's a pertinent question. One should never forget that which you yourself do not use, before too long, that ability will become stunted, and before too long, you forget. Then such things do not matter to you anymore. Only then what you use, what you observe on a daily basis, only those things become focused for that particular person. Therefore, you will find that there are some others who do not focus only on matter, For matter, and albeit gross matter, is only limited to the conceptions here on earth, or the earthly conceptions of time and of space. Only what is practiced when one in due course realizes that what appears physically, the root is much deeper on very calm observation. At the same time, each person must ask themselves questions. Here you come and you know, or you are told that you were born. It means you have parents. You did not just materialize from nowhere. So birth is a certainty. The second pole is that of death. It only means that after some time, this physical structure of the body gives up. It means it has to fall back into its basic elements. It may take some time. Then the question which assail many, what is it that activates this physical structure? Unless each personality asks themselves these questions, the likelihood is that they would listen to what others are saying and are not really fully prepared to examine it due to their intrinsic laziness. And that is where either so-called science or so-called religion steps in. Each person must first realize that they have an intellect. They have a brain and they can think. The question will be, is there any personality who has come to adulthood who dismisses that they have no brain because they cannot see their brain, or they do not think because they can't see their thoughts? These are personal questions. If that is the case, that they can find evidence that they have a brain, and in their brains they have thoughts, then in all naturalness, what will be the structure of their thoughts? What will be the structural forms of their thoughts? And how can these thoughts be assessed? That is what is tied to the brain. Basically, many should also know that there is the frontal brain where these thoughts are located. And there is also the back brain. With the back brain, what will be its functionality? Some of these things which are discussed now have always been there. There have been some of fine intuition, which intuition most of the time is dismissed as non-existent. Yet, evidence again and again, because you find Some of these other personalities have not been to formal schools, as you find in the arts, and yet you have a woodcarver who is able, without going to any formal school, to learn formal structures, being able to reproduce an object so beautifully. And yet this person has not been to a formal school to learn how these things are done. One may only say it is innate deep within them. The question, will such have come into being straight from their mother's womb? Such thoughts, such skills? These are the questions which many should ask themselves, but they never do. However, that word intuition has always been there from the time when man came into existence here on earth. And it is this intuition, it is this tool which connects the man, the real man, to the physical body. It is the seat of those deep emotions, which emotions express themselves, which emotions are then translated to earthly activities. Because there had been so much distortion, the owner, the creator who permitted creation to come into existence, made it possible through different revelations, such that that order needed to be put back in place, such that the man, by man one is referring to that which does the real experiencing and maturity, not the physical body as such. What has now come into play is the re-establishing of the order of things. Such revelations are found, for instance, through this work in the light of truth, which discusses light, which light is substantiality, and which also discusses truth, which truth is the law, which law works with the light to ensure that there is clarity. Therefore, it is now time for many to examine that which accosts them from time to time. That means those intuitive sensing which strikes them from within, from time to time, and then examine it. One should not forget, thousands of years ago, maybe 10 or 20,000, there were no formal schools, yet there was music. There were no formal schools, yet there was medicine. The questions which we should all ask ourselves, where did they learn that music? And who showed them how to take care of their health? For there has always been help. In order to facilitate clarity. The walk in the light of truth has now been permitted for many to examine.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory, and explanation. I was thinking that, the question was about how we got stuck with the, let's say, our spiritual activity and material activity, on this earth, that we focus on basically on this material activity. And you talked about we becoming lazy and not using our intuitive ability. Now, one thing, Gregory, is in today's world, there's a lot of focus on, like you said before, there was music there was health there's medicine before in the past, 10,000, 20,000 years ago, without any formal education. Now, yes, most of us do go to formal schooling. And but also, Gregory, the focus is, as a child grows up, it is the idea is to get a job and earn money so that you can live your life, in quote, successfully on earth. And in this goal of earning money, let's say some parents are driving their children to, let's say, become doctors, engineers, accountants. There's nothing wrong with that, of course. But maybe what I'm trying to point to, Gregory, is there's a focus on materialistic or money matters as the goal. And in some cases, it's quite a struggle for the child, or even, even somebody who's working, to make ends meet, or whatever their goal is. It seems hard to get there, and they don't have time for anything else. The focus is totally on this goal, to get a good career, let's call it. So my question on that, Gregory, should the focus be more about just, like, let's say, things were simpler in the olden times, when things were just, people were just happy, and they wanted just simple things, let's say, just peace in their life and just happiness. And maybe the goal has shifted, the focus has shifted from that to something more materialistic, because, let's say, as time has gone on, we have maybe changed our thinking and so on. So my question on this, Gregory, is it purely in laziness that has caused us getting stuck on this materialistic goal, or is it something like, as we develop further, we are just because science is always advancing, everything's always advancing, and so this is what the world of today is, this way. So what my question is, have we lost the time frame for developing our spiritual sides, spiritual activity, because of the focus only on this, let's say, developing ourselves intellectually? Maybe that's what my question is.
Well, thanks. And we always strive to give some precise answers. And assumptions you made where parents try to drive their children to study some things because they have to earn money, or they look for jobs and all that, and in which we now have the so-called conventional formal education. That assumption is completely and utterly wrong. For when education is mentioned, it should be the development of the skills which the human personality has. What has happened is that you have educational systems, or the formal conventional educational systems, which do not take into consideration at all of the innate skills. First, they know nothing about it or how to assess the innate skills of the personality. They need to talk less of even developing what they themselves do not know. Because that is the case, you then find that things are now done in a different way, in which those innate skills are then suppressed by non-development, or are then pushed into different areas. And before long, that which would have been for the benefit of the individual and also the community and even the world as a whole is then completely smashed. For many, it will be as if an earth life is a complete waste. That is what you find basically in the sciences. In the arts, nowadays, you do find a child who has not spent any time in the higher institutions reproducing a picture, so picture perfect. And then you start wondering, how did this happen? A picture perfect, they did not go from one massive institution to another. So in the arts, it is very different. Some only go just to study the notes, and then they are out. The same thing happens when others go and compose music. And that is why you find in the arts, there are some who, through their innate abilities, are able to listen deep within themselves. They are able to write letters, to write novels, to do so very many things, which, however, can never, ever happen in the sciences. From the sciences, you go to the technologies. So you find that things, the educational system, unless it is changed in such a way that it will first seek that which is inherent in the personality, and then, if it has the recognition, strive to develop these things. Unless that pattern is followed, then one would say everything as at now is along the wrong track. And one may compare it like lost sheep following a false shepherd. You can only imagine where these things will lead. So it is what has been put in place, or what majority have accepted. Again, in your discussions, you mentioned people are searching. They want jobs. Of course they want jobs. Why won't they want jobs when, for many of us, that which is intrinsic within us, we have ignored, and therefore we are searching for openings in other places. when we ourselves should, in our activities, provide openings for the younger ones to move into, learn, to open up themselves, as you might find in the arts. That has not been the case. And because the belief in, or the wrong belief in, the power of money holds sway, therefore, you find many, instead of going through the hassle of making this money so-called in a lawful way according to the government, they find ways of printing it and utilizing it without having to go through the hassle of doing that, which could be helpful to them and also their neighbors. That means what we refer to as cheating. Even the governments carry out these activities one way or the other. Therefore, they say, oh, this situation, you must look for a job. You must do this. You must do. So you learn one thing or the other. You go to school and learn such complex equations which are of no relevance at all. It may be of relevance to a few, but to many, completely useless. So, as things stand right now, you yourself or many can observe everything is wrong. They go ahead, for many, they do the best they can to make as much money as possible. But before too long, they sleep. They sleep spiritually because the process of making this money makes them sleep. There is no time for reflection. Before too long, they start growing old. And because they have upset the balance in their lives, many pass on before too long. And therefore, you find a whole earth life being wasted. The spirit completely immatured. The question many ask, what should we do? Each personality, when they come to adulthood, should ask themselves that question, whether they are in a position or whether their striving should be to be able to provide an opportunity and opening themselves for themselves, and therefore also provide opportunities for others whom, like him, are striving to make a living. Things are not as hard as many make it out to be.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Again, you've opened the sort of the picture of where we stand in terms of how we are, let's say, been our goals of striving for earning money, and and how we are operating, in the, you could say, I don't want to say robotic way, but somehow in a set way, almost like a blinkered, with blinkered view, and not really, going to why am I here? What is the deeper purpose of my life? And then having that as a foundation before we proceed. Okay, just I want to be this or I want to do that. It's just about earning money and living on this earth. There's a bigger picture which we need to come to realize and appreciate. And then once that's clear, then when we are striving for something, it will be striving, let's say, in the right way. You could say, in accordance with nature. Basically like that, working with nature, you can say. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message, by Abdrushing. And if you are interested in the Grail Message, want to get some more information or get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grail, Grail, message, MEZNEBSATI.com. And you're listening to the special discussion program on Bless Radio. The website is blessradio1, the number 1.com. Also, you can listen on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and then type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, and then space live stream to listen to the live show. And if you want to listen to the recording, you can listen to the recording the next day. Again, you go to youtube.com and then type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, and then space Grail Message, Grail Message, MEZNEBSATI, and then space the topic of the show, which tonight is Spiritualize the Work of Our Hands. Spiritualize the work of our hands. And if you would like to join in the discussion for the topic tonight is Spiritualize the Work of Our Hands, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, what you've been talking about, it's like we talked about education, you can say, but it's like you need the right type of education for our life not on the earth alone, but our whole life, which is including the spiritual life. And I would say, being on this earth, we might be focused on one aspect only, the earthly. And you've pointed out that, this is what the topic tonight is, spiritualize the work of our hands, spiritualize our earthly activity. It should be like a wholesome activity. The spiritual and the earthly have to unite. And you mentioned earlier, Gregory, about, let's say, when man has gone astray, not always necessarily gone astray, but let's say the Creator has sent help through teachers. We know about, let's say, people call it religions, and those teachings, spiritual teachings, let's call them, that many are around. And what I was thinking with regards to this education, Gregory, is that what we should start as a foundation first? Let's say maybe 200-300 years ago, that was probably the focus. You could say the religious teaching was what people were taught or indoctrinated, you could say, and then the formal education came either as part of it or it came after that. So, and now, let's say in the modern world, let's say in some places, not everywhere in the world, the focus is no more about the spiritual teaching. It's just more about, you could call it the formal education. So, do we now need to go back to that, Gregory? People have basically lost trust in these teachings. You know, because of the past experiences in history, where people have abused this position of power through religion, and you know, not only there in, let's say, even the rulers, it was clear they were after power more than they looking after their people, and so people have moved away in many places, not everywhere, but many places. So, apologies. So, what I want to ask you, Gregory, are we meant to strive? With regards to the education, should we have this spiritual sort of teaching, or read that as part of our education, as a almost, I would say, compulsorily, so that we have the context of our life in a journey, because I would say many of us are not aware of the spiritual side of our life. We are just focused on the earthly. So do we need to read or educate ourselves on that?
Thanks for this particular subject you raised. One must have clarity. First, that spiritual striving, or what some may refer to now as spiritual education, is not equivalent to religious education. These are completely two different things. That which is religious, from which there had been some recognitions of processes, of occurrences which are non-earthly, and through time many have been striving to present in some form that which is unearthly, to make it understandable. They give it a form. These forms started as cults, and these cults took on forms, initially simple forms. As they recognized from time to time and they matured, their awareness, consciousness expanded. Of course, because it was non-earthly, in quotes, not what many will see and hear, using the physical implement, which is the physical body. But at the same time, there were some who, through their maturity and refinement and blood radiation, were able to perceive forces, powers, streaming, which in taking on firm forms manifested here on earth, and subsequently were able to weave something around what they themselves have observed. And that was how cults came into existence and kept on evolving. But as time went on, there were some others who could not in their personal development move so fast. And what then happened was that those before them, having observed their work, and were only interested in the prestige, at the same time ignoring the responsibilities which came with this recognition. They wanted to take their place, they wanted to be respected. Then religion came in. For were that not the case, then many would have realized that the human spirit is endowed with the free will to make decisions, and therefore should not suppress others who were striving like them to come to better recognition. But because they didn't want to give up that title, they did everything they could to smooth out others. And then it was then said, all this came from the Creator. Which Creator, in fact, granted the human personality the free will to make free decisions. So one should separate spiritual striving from religious, observance. These are two different things. For that of religion, the recognitions or the grains of truth, which some of them have taken from teachings, which teachings in their original forms were pure. Those who have taken these grains of truth have molded them in such a way that others must follow what they themselves have put in place. For what would be the purpose of education if not that the human personality first needs to be aware, need to observe the objects found in nature, that which is comprehensible to them physically and non-physically, using the tools endowed to the personality, and above all, to understand the patterns, the laws in the sense these occurrences which have a firm, repeatable structure, like learning the language which nature, or in general, learning to understand the language which creation proffers to man. And on having learned that language, make use of the language to bring benefits to him or her who knows how to use the language. For you must ask yourself, what is language? Language which one refers to as structured communication. Structured communication because there is a response. That is why it is referred to as communication. Were there no responses, one would not even talk of communication. And in understanding the way creation manifests at different levels, we then make use of it, first for himself and also for the benefit of his fellow men or fellow women whom, like him, have come into existence in order to become aware of the structures which have been put in place. Only when one understands these firm structures of communication, only one has understand these structures and processes in nature, in the world of the animistic, and also to a large extent in the spiritual, which structures have always been there even before it became aware of them. Only then can it make use of them beneficially. That is the purpose of education, the real spiritual education. What one refers to here on earth as education are just conventions. Conventions which many follow, but before long, they are not durable. One can imagine 20 years ago, if one comes to the world of technology, many use the so-called Nokia phone, small set. You could talk, do so very many things. It was wonderful. But as time went on, you found that things have changed. It wasn't durable because as man becomes aware of the forces in nature and learns to make use of this, it learns the patterns and applies it to the other instrument it's making. So you find that there is a quick succession of changes. The arts do not go that way. Careful observation will tell you that the works of Shakespeare, the works of Pythagoras, the works of these beautiful artists in the fine arts, the older they are, the more men appreciate them. That means they are just awakening up to it. They have just awakened to the fineness and the beauty. The same goes for music. So you find that here on earth, that which holds its intrinsic beauty is tied to simplicity and purity. Purity in the intuitive sense, undistorted in its functionality. This is not what many go to school to learn. For what happens in the so-called modern world is that first you need to make as much money as you can, in the quotes, finances. And no sooner have you made as much as you start misunderstanding your fellow human spirits, and before long, the physical body is overused and it drops. What then happens to all the paper? One should never forget, the so-called money is only used here on earth and varies from one country to another. Man brought money or invented money. Money has never been an invention of the laws of nature, but man has done that.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. A listener has sent in a question in reference to what you've been saying so far, so I think I would like to put it to you now. He says that when you're saying that religious teaching is completely different to spiritual teaching, does that mean that spiritual teaching would need to be consistent to people across different religions? I'll just repeat that, Gregory. So you said in your answer just now that religious teaching is completely different to spiritual teaching. So does this mean that the spiritual teaching would need to be consistent across all different religions, or just different religions, it says?
Again, thanks for this particular question. Spiritual teaching is the goal. What you have in religious teachings are the different recognitions of the grains of truth which makes up the structure of that goal. That goal basically is the complete understanding of the laws of creation, or one may refer to them as spiritual laws, through which the human personality came into existence, and whence it needs to do and how it needs to live its life, to all the fallback will be of benefit to it. What you have in religious teachings are the stress on bits and pieces which they have been able to decipher so far, and using that one as a structure. In all religious teaching, one must ask themselves questions. Each person who holds on to religious teaching must question that teaching. Question that teaching with reference to the laws of nature. After all, if these teachings are correct, they are right, these teachings must also, or their recognitions must also be consistent with the laws of nature. Whatever teaching is not consistent with the laws of nature or with the laws of creation, then that teaching was either has been distorted or is completely and utterly wrong. Many other things might have been added to it. The laws of nature are simple in themselves, for they apply to that which we see and that which we cannot yet see. These laws apply to plants. These laws apply to animals, to man, to stone. All these things must be considered. Only when that personality is able to hold on to that religious teaching and use it to substantiate everything, and also is able to use it as a basis for the laws of creation, only then will it be right. Else, it is wrong.
Thank you for that, Gregory. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushing. And if you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. The topic we're discussing tonight is Spiritualize the work of our hands. Spiritualize the work of our hands, which means basically spiritualizing the work, our earthly activities. And if you're interested, if you'd like to join in the discussion, you can contact us on this UK number, which is 07939 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. Gregory, I want to just we've been talking about spiritual teaching, religious teaching, and I just want to read something just again to discuss it further. Again, I'm using this as an example, not so this is, I'm going to read something from the Bible. It's a Deuteronomy chapter 28. It's quite a long chapter, but I want to read a section of it. This is from the beginning, so this verse now, Deuteronomy chapter 28, starting with verse 1. If you fully obey the Lord your God and carefully follow all his commands I give you today, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations on earth. All these blessings will come upon you and accompany you if you obey the Lord your God. You will be blessed in the city and blessed in the country. The fruit of your womb will be blessed, and the crops of your land, and the young of your livestock, the calves of your herds, and the lambs of your flocks. Your basket and your kneading trough will be blessed. You will be blessed when you come in, and blessed when you go out. The Lord will grant that the enemies who rise up against you will be defeated before you. They will come at you from one direction, but flee you in seven. The Lord will send a blessing on your barns and on everything you put your hand to. The Lord your God will bless you in the land he is giving you. The Lord will establish you as his holy people, as he promised you on oath, if you keep the commands of the Lord your God and walk in his ways. Then all the peoples on earth will see that you are called by the name of the Lord, and they will fear you. The Lord will grant you abundant prosperity in the fruit of your womb, the young of your livestock, and the crops of your ground, in the land he swore to your forefathers to give you. The Lord will open the heavens, the storehouse of his bounty, to send rain on your land in season, and to bless all the work of your hands. You will lend to many nations, but will borrow from none. The Lord will make you the head, not the tail. If you pay attention to the commands of the Lord of your God, and that I give you this day, and carefully follow them, you will always be at the top, never at the bottom. Do not turn aside from any of the commands I give you today, to the right or the left, following other gods and serving them. However, if you do not obey the Lord your God, and do not carefully follow all his commands and decrees I am giving you today, all these curses will come upon you and overtake you. You will be cursed in the city and cursed in the country. Your basket and your kneading trough will be cursed. The fruit of your womb will be cursed, and the crops of your land, the calves of your herds and the lambs of your flocks. You will be cursed when you come in and cursed when you go out. I'm going to stop there, Gregory. It's a very long chapter. I want to say, Gregory, although I'm using this example from the Bible, there are many writings, written in a very similar way, saying, basically, you could say, instructions of God to obey Him and to follow His, you could say, rules. And so, what I want to ask you on this, Gregory. We talked just now about spiritual teaching and religious teaching. If I took this to be the religious teaching, as an example of religious teaching, here it does talk about blessing, Gregory, and you could say blessing on the work of our hands, coming from the work of our hands. So what I want to ask you quickly on this point is, what is the, let's say, is these words, let me say, these words, do they have any spiritual benefit in them, in the sense of, I don't mean to put it down, but is it like, can you just put that in context, this religious teaching? Is there something, let's say, what's the helpful aspect of this teaching compared to, let's say, what the spiritual teaching would say? If I say this is an example of a religious teaching.
Again, thanks for bringing this up, for it helps to elucidate many a point. In the passage you just read, there is a condition, which condition says, if you follow the commandments of your Lord. If you stop there and ask, what are these commandments of your Lord? These commandments are the laws which the owner of creation, who is their Lord, have placed in creation. These laws of creation, which, to make it simpler, are translated as laws of nature. Once the human personality follows, obeys, that means it does not go against them. The power which streams from on high will further his or her works. Whatever he himself or herself does, keeping in mind the commands or the laws of nature, the laws of creation, following them very closely, it will then ensure that that particular personality is in harmony with the commandments. And whatever is in harmony will only further, will not run against this commandment. And that was what was stressed in the last part. However, at that time, the people whom these was given were like children. Therefore, it had to be explained with simple words, with pictures fit for children at that time. Again, in the discussion or in the reading, they talk of the enemy. And many consider the enemy to not be themselves. Has it ever occurred that many a man could be his or her worst enemy when he himself lets go the commandments, or when he himself does not follow closely the laws of creation? Such a scenario will be that those currents which are always refreshing will sweep him aside into a corner, and before long he stinks because he's unable to exchange in all naturalness. Consider very carefully that to be able to live in harmony in nature, one must obey these laws. The very simple one is that of exchange, of breathing in and breathing out. A very simple example. Consider what happens when one takes in food, refuses to digest them properly, and refuse to pass things out through exhale or sweat or whatever. What then happens to that particular personality becomes putrid. At that time, those who listen to these words were at a very tender age in spiritual maturity. Therefore, that picture, as you would paint to children in kindergarten, was permitted them. And as they grew up, better, finer teachings came to them. The people of Israel at that time, in their recognition, one step at one time, they kept on making progress, because that which they knew in the past, they did not throw it away. So when you look at these things, or you examine these things very carefully, you will find that what you have just read is consistent with the word of truth, although it sounds different. It sounds different and it looks different because it is put in a childlike way, in a very pure and childlike way. But that does not mean it's inconsistent with the word of truth.
Thank you for that, Gregory. Earlier I was talking about our focus being on materialism or earthly goals like getting a job and parents striving for the children to, let's say, to go in certain professions or study hard to go in certain professions. And then you pointed out that, so that education, that let's say parents are, that formal education, you could say, people are focusing on, it needs to really it needs to be expanded, really, let's say, or needs to include the spiritual education, in the context of spiritual education. So I had a little, let's say, recent experience, which I'd like to share, where, let's say, I think it's very common, Gregory, that, people are struggling, let's say, for money for some need, let's say. And then, but the thing is, the money becomes the goal rather than why you are asking for the money or why you need something. And it occurred to me that, so then, as I say, now the focus is on getting the money. What can I do to earn this money? What job can I do? Or can I find some business or something that will give me this money? But then it's like you lose the plot, because somebody said to me when I shared this with them that when you come born as a baby, you come sort of helpless. However, everything has been provided by the Lord. You have parents, you have the food, nature, all of this, how you come into this world, you could say naked, but everything is provided. And I know I'm talking about a baby here, but then if I take it into this example that I have some goal where I require money, but then if I take it in the same context as the baby, if there's something I need to do, the Lord will provide. All the facility, all the things will be given. And just like this passage that I read from Deuteronomy chapter 28 about the commandments of the Lord, following the Lord of commandments, if I need something in my life, if it is meant for me to have this, everything will be provided, rather than me worry, oh, how do I get this money? How do I do this? How do I do that? Everything, it's like we just need to have the trust. Everything is actually already there. The laws are there. We just need to first be aware of them and recognize, as I say always, the bigger picture, that it's not about the money I need to achieve something. No. What is the context? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And everything will then fall into place. If I need this, that will come to me. Just like we talked in this chapter of Deuteronomy about blessings. Yes, you have calves, you have farm, and you have, let's say, children. And I'm not saying it in let's say, the best way, but whatever you have, blessings will be poured on it. The only thing is to work with the natural laws, work with them, and everything will come to you through that. But again, how is it provided? Because the natural laws come through the Lord, not me or any person. So we just have to work. There is I don't want to use it in this superficial way, there is a system, there is this creation, there is this world which works within these natural laws. And if we can come to recognize that these laws exist, that made us, they made the world, so everything we need through our, let's say, our free will, it will also be provided. And so this worry about, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that, and that stress or whatever, however we want to call it, that's of our own making, rather than really appreciating that this world is already perfect, everything is there, we just need to access it in the right way with our prayerful, I will say, prayerful attitude. Gregory, I just want to, we're coming to the end of the show, I just wanted to ask you now, how should we be, Gregory, to receive these gifts and blessings from the Lord. We talked about the laws. Is it about just the awareness? How should we receive it? Let's say the wisdom of the Almighty, the love of the Almighty, and all the blessings. How can we align ourselves with it so that we all benefit?
Again, thanks for this particular question, and it will be very brief. Whoever wishes to receive must first give of himself or herself, must always strive to do that. Only when you have given will creation grants you the right to receive, else you will not receive. The second point I wish to point out, considering that many think the blessing will fall on them, that has never happened, and that will never ever happen. For very simply, many a person ask for blessings to be strong enough to destroy their enemies, which enemies could be themselves. Many a person seek for something outside and ask and ask. But have they ever considered that that which they are asking for has already been granted if they have the right attitude? Many are denied for what they have asked for. For if that is to be granted in accordance to their own limited understanding, they themselves will vanish from this earth. They ask for powers and strength, and yet they are not capable of receiving the power and the strength. Were they capable, they themselves would have recognized that it's always there. Only that which is beneficial will be granted to the human spirit, not that which will destroy it. And because many ask in an intellectual fashion, in a one-sided fashion, wanting to receive without even giving appreciation of that which has been granted them, albeit a beneficial life here on earth, or the preparation of other worlds where the human spirits have to experience, because never have they ever reflected on such. They block their inner ability to be able to receive the grace which has been granted the human spirit.
Thank you for that, Gregory. We've come to the end of our show, listeners. Hope you enjoyed the topic tonight, Spiritualize, the work of your hands. As always, the aim is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abrushin. And we urge you to pick up the Grail Message and examine for yourselves the knowledge that is there. If you are interested in knowing about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. Gregory, I just want to ask you, anything you'd like to say to the listeners to end the show?
Wishing them a beautiful week, and please try to get a copy of the message to examine for yourself.
Thank you for that. Thank you, listeners, for joining us tonight. I wish you all a great week. God bless. We'll be back again next Tuesday, as usual, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. All the best. Take care, everybody.